Good morning. I'm Frank Messina, and I'd like to welcome you to the July 19, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. A couple of announcements. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A-20, March 31st, 2023, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately address the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that a person who would like to listen to this meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID 875-901-435 #. Or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay, March 31st, 2023. So I guess somebody expects this nonsense to be going on for a long time. We have a rather short agenda. We only have one hearing, a couple of new business items, including our reorganization, and some old business in the chairman's report of things that are happening, and there are things happening. So the first item on the agenda would be the roll call. Vice Chair Bob Lear is currently absent and hopefully will be here shortly. Mr. Burlingame?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
Jane?
Here.
Don?
Here.
Sandy?
Here.
Janet?
Here.
Okay, and the chair is here, of course. All right, having said that, we have potentially, with Mr. Lear's absence, one alternate. Can you help me, guys? Who's up?
Sandy.
Sandy? Thank you. That was quick. I guess she doesn't want to vote, right? Okay. Okay. So Sandy Porter will act in Mr. Vice Chair Bob Lear's presence. She will participate and vote. Janet, who is an alternate, will just participate and will not be participating in the voting. Okay, first item quickly is our really short meeting of June 21st, 2022, when we were required or had to deal with Ms. Hamilton being appointed as our Community Preservation Chair. So the minutes of June 21st, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have 6 regular members here. So why would we need an alternate?
Well, there are 7 members of the commission.
7 I'm sorry.
Don't throw me already, Don. You know, I get thrown very easily. You've got to make me think. Counting in the morning is not one of my strong suits. Okay. I thought it was a test. All right, here we go. So we have the meeting minutes of June 21st, 2022. Any comments, corrections, additions, deletions? Look for a motion to accept the minutes. So moved and seconded by Sandy. A move by Ms. Tennyson. Okay. So a quick roll call. Steve?
Aye.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
I can't vote.
Right. Abstain. Thank you. Jane?
I can't vote either.
Abstain. Thank you. Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and the chair votes yes. All right, so the minutes are accepted. Deal with that. Okay, as I said, we have one application. You know, Mr. Vice Chair, I was reading the booklet that our administrative assistant gave me about the town, how the town committee, and apparently I've been wrong for many years here, that you as clerk are supposed to announce the hearing. So could you please read the agenda for the hearing?
Sure.
I'm giving you a job, increasing your salary.
Make sure I have it right one.
Application,
Okay, application number, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Application number 22-007, to be heard in accordance with Chapter 158 Demolition Delay Bylaw of the Town of Chatham General Bylaws pursuant to the notice of intent to partially demolish a historic building or structure, main house, new foundation, reconfiguration of exterior window and door locations, relocation of the front door and construction of a portico, barn, reconstruction of a rear dormer, relocation of windows and doors, reconstruction of flat roof at rear and construction of roof deck, located at 309 Stage Harbor Road, filed by Mike Carmella, AIA, care of Patrick Ahern, architect, 160 Commonwealth Avenue, Suite 13, or 1.3, or L3, Boston, 02116 for Highland Realty Trust, Shagargian, 53 State Street, 15th floor, Boston, Mass. 02109. And secondly, an application to be heard in accordance with the provisions of Section 12E of the Cape Cod Commission Regional Policy Plan regarding properties situated in an eligible National Historic Register District pursuant to an application for substantial alteration to a historic or contributing structure in an eligible National Historic Registry District located at 309 Sage Harbor Road, filed by Mike Tardamella, AIA, care of Patrick Ahern, architect, 160 Commonwealth Avenue, Suite L3, Boston, Mass. 02116, for Highland Realty Trust, Shagargian, 35 State Street, 15th floor, Boston, Mass. 02109. And I apologize if I mispronounced anybody's name.
Well, that's why I wanted you to do it, because I'm constantly mispronouncing people's name, so I figured I'd let you be the bunt of, okay. Mike, I assume you're going to give us an overview, but let me just, for the public's information, so we have an application. This particular property, 309 Stage Harbor Road, is located in an eligible National Register district. Stage Harbor Road was applied for National Register designation, and although we never went forward with the vote, it was eligible. Cape Cod Commission has provided an opinion which indicates we could, if we decided to, ask that it be referred to the Cape Cod Commission. Just giving people, everybody, the ground rules, not to say we're going to do that. So we have two things we're doing here. Once Chapter 158, or demolition delay, and also potentially referral to the Cape Cod Commission. So, having said that, this is a contributing structure in a potential National Register district, and there is a Form B from the property. I don't think there's any argument relative to the historic significance of the property.
Sure.
Okay, so what we usually like to do is just quickly dispense with that as a vote for procedural, that we agree, or unless we don't agree, that the subject property is in fact historically significant and potentially a contributing structure and a proposed National Register district. Can I get a motion to that effect?
So
I
moved.
so move.
Okay, a second?
Second?
Second by Jane. Any other questions, discussions? Okay, we're going to do a roll call on that motion relative to its historic significance. Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
That a yes?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Got to turn up my hearing aids. Okay. Sorry, Mike. Why don't you introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of what you're attempting to do?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Tartamella from Patrick Ahern Architect, here to present the proposed additions and alterations to 309 Stage Harbor Road. I know some of you were at the site visit yesterday, where we had an opportunity to walk the property and talk a little bit about what's there and what we were proposing to do. So I'd like to start with the main house and give you a little bit of background on the house and what we're proposing to do. The original house was built in 1880, and we're not sure on the barn, but we're going to assume that the barn was built in very similar time, although the barn's been pretty significantly renovated in 2002 based on the records that we worked with Michelle on. It's a shingle style, what I'd classify as a shingle style cape, with very, I think, historically accurate and regionally appropriate massing and roof lines to it. There's a cedar sidewall, and there's currently an asphalt roof on the house. Right now, there's a partial basement that exists underneath the house, and the house sits low in the ground. I'd also like to point out that next door, 317, is in the same ownership, so the same owner owns both properties and the outbuildings that are there. So our approach with the property was to see how we could potentially improve the living space and expand the living space without having to do any significant additions to the structure. So our first proposal would be to raise the house by 11 inches and therefore being able to put a full basement underneath the house and a new foundation. The 11 inches gets us a little bit more meaningful ceiling height on the interior. It maintains that mass and scale. And again, allows us to get the house out of the ground further from the grade in order to satisfy building code, and also gives us the ability to expand into the basement without having to add significant appendages. We're also looking to reconfigure the interior space and capture a screen porch that's on the north side of the house that's currently over here. You can see on the end of the north elevation. In doing that, we're also relocating the front door and proposing to build a, if we could advance the drawings a little bit to sheet number 5, maybe, if you wouldn't mind. So looking at the south elevation here, we're proposing to add a new bay window, which would be on the,
Is that a pointer you're giving him? Yes. Mike, there you go.
so here's the new bay window that we're proposing to add. Here's the new converted front entry with a little portico roof with a shed roof that all sits behind this element here. The overall mass and volume stays exactly as it is today. We've taken the opportunity to reconfigure some of the exterior windows, and there would be new siding and trim and new red cedar roof on the house as well as part of the project. We could advance the slide, please. So looking at the north side here, we talked about capturing that north side screen porch, and the only part of the house that we're actually removing is this little sort of rectangle of the back screen porch. And the thought behind that is to make this piece more secondary and also have a little bit better resolution of the architectural detail here on the roof. So it's just a little subtle change, but that's physically the only demolition to the existing structure that we're proposing to remove, notwithstanding, I understand, making new window openings and things, but in terms of footprint, that's the only material change.
But the footprint is going to be the same?
Footprint is going to be exactly the same, notwithstanding the bay window.
Got it.
But yes, the footprint is going to remain as it is. From a square footage standpoint, if we analyze the first and second floors, there's an increase of really only 391 square feet, and that's by virtue of capturing this screen porch on the north elevation. So again, that's all within the existing footprint. The major increase that you see in terms of square footage on the main house is about 1,400 square feet of basement space. So space that's not even perceived from the public way. If we could advance the slides, please. So looking here at the proposed west elevation, which currently has, proposed east elevation, or the east elevation, which has a open porch that was once enclosed over time. We're looking to sort of create that language again. Looking at the east elevation, we've actually removed the venting chimney for the old kitchen and put a set of double hung windows here. And I know we'll talk about chimneys in a moment, which is fine. And we've proposed a new French door and side lights coming out the east, all taking advantage of those long views down towards Mill Pond as well. If we could advance the slides.
Excuse me, just to refresh my memory, I got it, the front of the house, could you go back?
Your microphone, Frank.
Sorry, just refresh my memory. You can go back, the front of the house,
2 slides back, please.
or the streetscape per se, not
Streetscape or from the parking court, south side.
Is in fact, what is that, the south elevation is what you see from the street. Yeah,
What you'd see on angle from the street, but what presents itself is really
Yeah.
the west elevation. But that's all covered by privet too. So what, would you like to see the west or the south?
no, that's all right, the south,
Okay.
I oriented myself correctly, thank you,
Okay.
I got it, sorry.
So we
I
could
love the
advance,
knocking on the window when I don't turn my microphone on.
we could advance the slide. So these just go through the demolition diagrams and ways that we went about calculating the area to be removed with dimensions. We could advance to the next slide as well. We could advance to the next slide.
Did you calculate the total amount of demolition,
I believe we did, yes.
and what was that?
So if we could go back one slide.
The demolition,
Two
being
slides. Go
defined,
back
the
one more slide.
window openings
Yeah,
and,
so that's here,
Okay.
this table here, which shows the material to be removed. It's 1,251 square feet, and that's the total for all of the elevations on page 8.
so the grand total is what?
1,251 total material to be
Of
removed.
the main house, for
Yes.
44%?
Yes.
Okay,
So these just walk you through the floor plans, and you can see here that corner of the screen porch is the only material footprint change. Again, we're talking about adding the bay window here and relocating that front portico. But the increase in space here is really, on the first floor, is solely by capturing that screen porch. Go to the next slide. The second floor, there are no square footage increases on the second floor. You can go to the next slide. What's that? Okay, thank you. So the barn structure, as I said, was renovated in 2002. The interior is it's a post and beam frame, but it's quite different on the interior now. There's been a lot more, 6-panel hollow core doors installed, and it's,
I guess, sorry, Bob, you just got here? I did. Just want to recognize Mr. Lear appearing, and thank you, Sandy, for your great work. So we'll continue.
So the proposals for the barn are to remove this rear dormer that's a flat roof pitch right now. It also comes out all the way to the extent of the outside wall of the gable end, and build a new shed dormer that's set in slightly from the gable end, which is what you would typically see in the vernacular. We also are modifying this rear roof and creating a little bit more of a flat roof deck that I think complements the existing massing a little bit better, and refenestrating the building with windows and placements of those windows. Overall, though, the layouts are similar. And again, looking at redeveloping interior space here, as well as new skin, new trim, as some of you saw yesterday, that both of these buildings are fairly tired in terms of their exterior skins. You could advance to the next slide. So looking at the east elevation here, which looks down towards Mill Pond, long stretch of property, you could see this existing staircase that's on the side we're proposing to remove as well, and have no staircase in the new north elevation. So I think we'll talk a little bit about chimneys. I think we may talk a little bit about, but overall, the goal for both structures was to preserve the mass and scale that's there. And
Maximum, say that again, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
the overall goal with both structures was to preserve the mass and scale of what's there with no substantial alterations to the structures as they exist today. Thank you.
Okay. We can continue this with considering both at the same time unless there's any objections to that. All right? Both the main house and the barn. I've got a number of questions, but what I'm going to do is just save mine for later and go around the room. Any questions from the members of the commission? Steph?
I'm just wondering about the percentage of change. I was under the impression that the percentage needed to be quite a bit less than that.
Could you speak a little better into the microphone for me?
I was under the impression that the percentage of change was supposed to be less than that, than the 42%.
I think it's a threshold for review, is it not?
Yeah, the threshold for referral to the Cape Cod Commission is 25%. This is a little bit of a, I don't know what the proper word to use, as an eligible National Registered District. If it was an approved National Registered District, we have the authority individually to do that if we determine that the changes affect the substantially, change the historical significance. But as a eligible National Registered District, it's a little hairy in the sense that we would have to go to the Board of Selectmen, to the building inspector, to the building commissioner, and get his permission for the referral. So it's a little bit more complicated. I think it's something we have to think about really seriously if we're going to take it that far as a referral to the Cape Cod Commission. So I guess the question is are the changes materially, changing the historical significance of the property? And that's an issue. Okay, I'm sorry, Don, you wanted to say something.
Driving by or walking by this property, the 2/2 windows really stand out as being part of the historic streetscape
I agree.
of that neighborhood. And to change those from 2/2 to 6/6, I think is going to make it look like every other house on the street, or many other houses on the street. So I would prefer to see it as continue as 2/2 windows, even though they're being moved to different locations.
It's funny, it's one of my comments also. I agree with you. We do agree sometimes. Anyway, 2/2. Anything else, Don? Steve?
Just to comment on a couple of things. To comment on a couple of things. As far as the windows are concerned, certainly classical colonial architecture would be 6/6 as opposed to 2/2. So much new construction now is 2/2 or 2/1 or whatever. And I don't want to see this get modernized so much that it loses some of its character. I guess I have a third thing that I'll add to it. As far as the chimneys are concerned, in 1880, chimneys were only for the sake of venting stoves. There were no fireplaces constructed at that particular time. There's no chimney foundations or anything of that nature. They were strictly utilitarian. I think served no particular purpose. They're usually pretty small. They're not significant. It's not the sort of thing you see if looking at a house like you would for a house that was 100 years older than that one. So I'm not concerned about the chimneys at all. And in addition, I think this is one of the finest packages that we've received in a long time in terms of its comprehension, its detail, and its ease of working with. I compliment you on your work.
Thank you.
Ladies? Jane?
My usual comment is I'm so glad that you're saving the structure and that you are staying on the same footprint. And I would second what Steve said about the application. What I love is that you have existing above proposed. And that makes it so much easier for us to see what you're going to change.
Can thank Michelle for her guidance on this, so.
Thank you, Michelle. We thank her a lot.
We hear she's got a whip. Is that true?
We worked very closely putting this together, I could say, so.
It shows. It's a lot of
Thank you.
work.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Janet?
No, I think it's a very good plan, and it's wonderful that this old house is being saved and pretty much in the same, saving as much architectural integrity that it has, and I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Sandy?
I think the presentation was very good.
Thank you.
I really like the 2/2 windows, but that's,
Say that again, Sandy, I'm
I
sorry.
really prefer the 2/2 windows.
Yeah.
And I think because the house next to it being so close was 6/6, somehow or other, it just, to me, it would feel kind of odd. I thank you for saving the house. You got to save one chimney. You just do. I'm sorry. Other than that, I really like it. Thank you.
Bob?
I apologize for being late. On the chimneys, I agree, the one to the newer chimney, to the north, I guess, is not such a big deal, but there is an older chimney in the back there that clearly has been there for quite a while. I can't exactly date it. And as to the windows, and looking at the Form B, it's got a description of some of the windows upstairs. There's a pair of 2/1 double hungs, 1/1 double hung, and then 2/2s. It's a real mishmash, but I frankly did not notice that. Go ahead. With the,
Tiring.
I guess, curtains or shades or anything, it was very hard to tell what was going on up there. But is there that mix of windows?
Yeah, so, it's hard to tell. I actually was studying the Form B a little bit this morning to try and see with the glare. What we think, well, I can comment on a couple of these things. So, our philosophy with the windows was two things. It was tying it a little bit more into the fabric of the neighborhood that's there. I do think some of the new construction that's more 2/2 references a little bit more of a farmhouse vernacular. And sort of if we could bring up I think sheet 5. I think if we just look at that south elevation, one of the things I think that the vertical 2/2s imply is a little bit more verticality, where I think the 6/6s, and I think we could even make a conversation about 6/1 because that's in the neighborhood. I think are a little bit more regionally and stylistically appropriate for this type of architecture. The Form B actually references this as a Queen Anne, which I had a hard time identifying Queen Anne aspects of it. It's more shingle style. And you would definitely not see 2/2 in a shingle style house that has asymmetry like this. To answer your question, I think there's been a hodgepodge due to some replacements and storms and other things that have gone on the outside of the house. I took the opportunity yesterday to put together a streetscape study of the rest of the properties, and I certainly appreciate what's there now is the 2/2, and a lot of people assimilate this house with that. There was another house up the road that had 2/2s that went through an alteration in 2018 where it was changed to 6/6s. We sent over some imagery of that this morning. And just for reference, the other houses in the neighborhood, which are all 6/6 or 12/12 or 6/1. So, again, I'm happy to study the 2/2. Candidly, as an architect, I think this fits better with the style of the house, but I certainly appreciate the opinions that have been expressed regarding the 2/2s. As far as the chimney goes, Bob?
Go ahead.
If I may, we pretty much feel that the house that's there, that's a later chimney on that north side. The east side chimney that you're referring to certainly looks original to the house. We could rebuild on the roof side of that a false chimney that represented what that would have been.
Thank you.
Just a comment on what you said. I think there's a great deal to be said for not having every house look alike with 6/6s.
Right.
We have a Queen Anne, and it is 1/1, for example, and that if you go down, it's in the Old Village, go down the street, no, there are no two window houses alike.
Fair enough.
So that's part of
Sure.
the charm of it. And just one other personal comment, I think with the shutters, it makes it look awfully busy compared to the sort of simple aspect of it now.
Right on. You done?
Yes.
Okay. Gee, I shouldn't go first anymore. It's great. Everybody says things. I feel strongly about the windows to, that Don's comment. Between the 6/6 and the shutters, we got a real complicated and a very complex house. It looks like it's brand new, not 18-something. So I think, in my opinion, I would prefer to see the windows configuration change and get away from the 606 and go back to, if you want to do uniformity, go back to what the majority of the windows are in the house, which is, was it 1/2, Don? 2/2. Which is what it was when it was listed as potentially an eligible National Register contributing structure. So that's the first thing. As pointed out here, there is a lot of demolition. Granted, you're not taking the house down, but you're really tearing it apart. So the question is, okay, what are we left with? And we're left with a much different house in terms of, in my opinion, the streetscape and the look, although you're not changing the footprint. So, but I think if we can make, in my opinion, if we could make the changes relative to eliminating, some of the complexity with the shutters, eliminate some of the complexity with the 6/6, and on top of it, now you're adding lintels, or whatever they're called, on top of the windows? What is that called?
No, that's just casing around the window.
Casing? I
No,
guess it
there's
just
no
looks a
lintels or
little,
anything proposed.
it looks a little dark on my drawings. Like it's
No,
flat out.
It's just a casing around the windows. There's no lintel or anything.
It's not a flat casing, is it?
No,
it's
it's
a
a
molding.
band molding that goes around.
And is
the
there
window.
one there now?
I don't believe that's
No.
there now. It's
Well, that's to Don's point. It's a simpler looking house, and you've made it very complex, from my opinion. So that's the windows comment. I agree with the chimney comment. If you look at a house that's new today, there's no chimneys, okay? We're supposed to streetscape give the sense of the streetscape of a house that was built in the 1800s, and it had a chimney. Whether it was a fireplace, to warm the house, or whether it was a venting, there was a chimney there. And I would, if you can, accommodate us with some kind of a faux chimney there. Either one, it was acceptable to me. You're going up a foot, 11 inches, I don't think it's a showstopper as far as I'm concerned. The foundation is going to be exposed, brick, or what?
brick veneer, yes.
Brick veneer? Okay. And we said red cedar roof?
Yes.
So I don't have any problems with that, but I do have a problem with the complexity and the trim. Do you think you want to try to make some quick modifications for us and come
So
back to us?
What do you mean with the complexity of the, I mean, we're just,
The
are you
6/6
talking?
and the...
Yeah, that certainly
and-
we can address,
And
sure.
the abundance of shutters.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at the house, it's very simple. I mean, I'm not I'm an electrical engineer, okay, but Queen Anne, certain sense of look, it's true. It's a mix, I don't know what they call it, vernacular or what, but it certainly is a simple house, not a house. And I grant you, the house adjacent to it, unfortunately, we lost that house, and then that was put there, from ground up. But it'd be nice to, in my opinion, to maintain some of that simplicity on the street and not have all modern-looking houses. That's my sense. So, do you have any comments, or?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I think, thank you for
I'm
the
sorry,
feedback.
Steph. Oh, Ben, thank you. You don't have to whisper. I'm sorry, Ben? Out of sight, out of mind, Ben. Excuse me, Mike, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I was muted. Well, I didn't have any comment.
No comments?
No.
Thank you, Ben, I apologize. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm sorry, Mike.
No problem. So in terms of making the window casing simpler, sure. Removing the shutters, yes, you can certainly take shutters off. Our sort of philosophy with that, and perhaps maybe, could we just go to the cover sheet, if you don't mind? Our philosophy with that is it helps to break down a little bit of the solid to void relationship on the elevations where, the cover. Yeah, the first page we had. We didn't include the color rendering elevations because oftentimes these black and whites are simpler for comparison's sake. I think that feedback was from another meeting, but all the way back.
Christina?
We don't have the cover.
This
Okay.
one. We're talking about this sheet?
Yeah, so you can see that from the front.
We all have it. Everybody has
So
the
it
cover
just breaks
sheet?
down the skin, the amount of shingle to window to glass. But I think with the feedback, we can certainly simplify the windows, going back to a little bit of the original structure. We can absolutely fake in a chimney. We do that quite often, even in new construction, in order to give a sense of implied history. And if that's what the commission would like to see, we'll certainly submit revisions to that effect.
Okay, we can do this in two ways. If there's consensus within the commission that, A, we're not going to refer it to the Cape Cod Commission, and if there's consensus within the commission that we're not going to impose a demolition delay if, in fact, some of these modest changes are made, we could vote to allow it to proceed and then have the drawings, revised drawings come back to me, the chair and the vice chair, which we could review and approve, or we can have the applicant come back. So I'm looking three ways here. How would you like to proceed?
I'd like to see the house drawn.
Okay.
Out the 6/6.
Okay, fine. All right. So then, unfortunately, then, do you think you could come back? Of course you can come back. Yeah.
Of course.
And when is our next meeting?
August or September, excuse me, August 6th.
Oh,
August 16th, I'm
August
sorry.
16th?
Yes.
August 16th. Can I get a quick show of hands? Who's not going to be here on August 16th? One?
I am going to try to tune in from the
Okay.
Adirondacks.
All right, so
We have no cell
sometimes
towers.
difficult, sometimes, and, okay, so good. We're good for August 16th. We'll do it. Okay, Michelle? Yeah. All right,
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
do that.
thank you very much. So we need a motion to continue? Yes.
A quick comment. Were you talking about eliminating the shutters as well as changing the windows?
Well,
It's going back to his.
Excuse me, could you repeat that, Steve?
I know that there's a reasonable consensus on the windows, but we just kind of tossed in the shutters, and I don't know whether we've discussed that adequately. I think that
Okay, go
from an
ahead.
actual perspective, I think that Mike has made a good comment when he's trying to diminish the amount of
Blank space.
comparison between the siding, so that you have that cedar siding over the whole house except for some windows, or whether you've broken that up so you've got less of a disproportionate amount of space. And
Can I make a suggestion, Steve?
yes, you may.
This is all computer-driven.
yeah, we show you both.
Show us both.
I just wanted to point out from your comment, Frank, that the proposed west elevation is really the streetscape elevation. And if I step away from this for a second, the privet hedge really covers this whole portion.
Yeah,
of the
privet
house.
hedges-
So
privet
the two
hedges-
windows,
Privet hedges come and go.
so the two windows that you see up top, you could see, you can get a
Yeah.
feel for that now, what that would look like with shutters and without shutters. But we can do both.
I
and
don't
show
like
you
the,
that.
I just think the shutters make it a little too complex, especially from the streetscape point of view. So why don't you give us both, and then we'll, we're not asking, I don't think, a major,
Frank, could I ask something?
yes, Jen?
Do you think that the shutters would be too much if he went back to the 2/2 windows?
I don't know, well, that's what
Well,
we're going to do.
that's what we'll study.
We're going to do,
Yeah.
he's going to generate
So are
a,
you going to do 3 drawings then?
No, it'll be 2. We'll take a sheet like this, and what we'll do is show 2/2 windows in both scenarios, one without shutters and one
And
with
one
shutters.
with shutters.
So there'll be
Oh.
a
Then
5A,
we
a
can take
7A, and a 7B.
Oh, good, okay.
you good, Jane?
Yes.
All right,
I'm
yes?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Sandy.
Are we talking about the barn at the same time?
Oh, sorry, thank you very much. Anybody have any issues with the barn? I think they did a pretty good job. We agree? Don?
How about the
Steph?
windows there?
Yeah. Pardon?
The windows on the barn, which are 0 over 0s, which we absolutely, those are not original.
Now you
I think
got
they're
me, sorry
vinyl
about
right
that.
now. I think it
Thank-
adds a little bit of variety.
As far as I'm concerned, personally, it's your call on the barn. I don't know how other people feel. Sandy? You going to make a comment?
I like the way it looks. I like the proposed barn.
You like the proposed barn?
Yep.
Janet?
I like it too.
Don? Okay. So we're talking about the main house. So, Mr. Chair, I need a motion to continue the meeting to August
16th.
August 16th.
August 16th.
August 16th. Thank you.
I so move.
And need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lear. Got to do a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
help.
Thank you.
And I do agree with your comments about the A- they gave you on the application. I wouldn't give you A+.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle drives a hard bargain there. Sometimes we forget, that 90% of the work here occurs before we get the application. All right,
Give your clap.
here we go. All right, back to our agenda. Not bad, 45 minutes. The first item on the agenda is the reorganization of the board. I have been unable to validate, any individuals who want to step up as chair, vice chair, or clerk. Do we have any opinions? I'm looking right and left. Mr. Lear, will you put your...
hand's not up. Stephanie's
Yep.
hand is up, though.
Yes, Steph?
I'd like to make a nomination that the present board stays as it is.
You second that, Jane?
I do second it, but I know that you don't want to be chairman anymore.
Well, you know what, I guess, it's not that I don't want to be chairman anymore. It's getting to be a full-time job, and I'm
It is.
hoping that somebody will really want to be chairman. I don't want to force anybody into it, okay? And I'm willing to let it go another year from my perspective. And I think, I'd like to see? I'd like to see South Chatham Village National Register District, and then I'll rest on my laurels and move on. But, all right, do we have a second to that nomination?
I'll second it then.
Okay.
I just
Mr.
want to make sure you wanted to be it.
Mr. Burlingame?
I'll second it.
I mean, you're,
Oh, my approval?
yeah, all right. And Bob?
Enthusiasm, yes, sir.
All right. A deep sigh. All right, we need a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you. It's a lot of work, guys. There's a lot going on, and I think maybe some of it's my fault, as I keep thinking about things that we ought to be doing, but I think one thing I would say, just in comment, is the fact that the administrative review, I think, has significantly reduced our workload. Michelle, I think you agree?
Yeah, there have been quite a few, and it seems to me as though the process is working.
Yeah, so I think that's a very positive thing that we did last year or 2 years ago. We also, just a quick aside to that, we have thought about expanding the administrative review as it relates to the issue of historical significance. And right now, we can't because our bylaw specifically states how we do it, but it's just something to look into. Because many times, I think we all agree, we'll get applications and it's obvious, this thing is not historically significant. And just because it's 75 years old, it comes to us. And I think our biggest fear is River Bay, which is going to be 75 years soon. So, we have to, as a community, we have to think about it. This is something we really want, to get the Historical Commission involved. But, okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm sure Bob and Steve did a fine job reading. I'm going to make sure he does his job as clerk. Okay, the second new business item before we go to old business is the fact that there was a request and a discussion after one of our previous meetings to request town council to opine, I guess the proper word is, the concept of reconsideration of an approved vote by a member of the commission. As a result of that, the town's policy is one in which it doesn't just happen automatically, I guess because they're probably paying paying the attorneys a lot of money. So Michelle prepared a request in accordance with the process that the town of Chatham follows for a legal opinion. In the old days, we used to be able to pick up the phone and call the town council. But then I guess they found that there was a lot of money being spent on relatively unimportant things. So Michelle sent out a request basically attempting to let the town council understand but what happened or what was going on at the meeting, but the key question was that there is uncertainty and conflicting opinion upon the commission members about the correct procedure for a member's request for reconsideration. We do have the legal opinion, which you have. I also went back to look at our town, whatever it's called, the town guidance of the committee. I can't find it. Oh, here, it's right in front of me. The so-called handbook for the town. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's silent on the issue of reconsideration, revote. And there is no reference to Robert's Rules of Orders. I know that was brought up, so forget about that business. So, I guess we have to go with the attorney and his opinion. And I guess I'll read it for the public, because even though it was posted with our agenda. This is to a correspondence from Patrick Stella, the town attorney, to Jill Goldsmith, who's the town manager. In essence, a commission member who requested a revote on the matter was asking for reconsideration of the commission's prior vote. Typically, motions for reconsideration are made and addressed during the same public hearing in which the initial vote was taken. However, there is no hard, fast, or legal prohibitions in offering a motion to reconsider at a subsequent meeting or board commission, which is interesting. A motion to reconsider, however, would have to be made, discussed, and voted by a commission, reconvene a public hearing with proper notice to the applicant, and posting per the commission's standard public hearing procedure. Since the public hearing was closed on May 17, the commission action has taken final action on the matter. There is no pending application before the commission on which the further action could be based. Accordingly, in my opinion, the only way for this matter to be reopened for further consideration and by action of the commission is pursuant to the chair's decision in his discretion to place the matter on a future agenda for further consideration, presumably at a member's request. Such a decision could be based on the chair's determination that there was material confusion and misunderstanding or other such circumstances which impacted the commission's vote on May 17th. Hearing thus warranting further hearing proceedings. If this action is pursued, I suggest the chair place the matter on a commission agenda at the earliest possible time after appropriate public notice of the reconvened public hearing to avoid potential issues relative to appeals, further action, and reliance on previous votes. I assume he means litigation. When the reconvening public hearing is open, I assume the member questioning the previous action would make a motion to reconsider the May 17 votes of the commission, which he or she wishes to address. If the motion to reconsider is seconded and approved by the majority, the commission would then proceed to discuss, deliberate, and revote the disputed matter. The chair could reopen the public comment of the hearing if he deems it appropriate to do so. Okay. I do not believe additional public comment may be mandated if the commission merely wants to revisit and consider its deliberation at the May 17th hearing. Legal actions, yeah. So, I guess in my opinion, there's nothing more to say. At my discretion, when asked to reconsider the vote and asked for the reason, was that I wanted to change the vote. I didn't think it was material, and I voted the motion out of order. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the decision of the opinion or the opinion of the attorney is valid relative to the chair's discretion. So, we're opening up Pandora's box here, and, when we want to reconsider a vote, there's got to be, in my opinion, as it says here, a matter, some kind of something of substance before you want to reconsider and reopen the hearing and vote. Because it's not just a vote. It's a rehearing. In other words, it's a consideration of material. And I didn't feel, in my opinion, that that was anything that we didn't understand relative to the application. In fact, I think the applicant left at the time. So unless there's no further comments, yes, Don.
Mr. Chairman, in keeping with the town council's expressed opinion, I'm requesting a reconvening of this committee's public hearing on the application for 32 Ivy Lane at the earliest possible date. I believe I was inappropriately denied the opportunity to reconsider the commission's prior vote during the hearing and am therefore entitled to be able to move for a revote at a reconvened hearing.
Is there a second?
Can I say something? I second it, and I would like to agree with Don. I think it's unfortunate that I left the meeting at 1 o'clock, which I thought was, plenty of time to get to the doctor's at 1:30. And then Mr. Riley walked back in.
All right, well, look,
I mean,
you second the
there
motion.
was
We're
a
not gonna
lot
have a
of
discussion,
confusion,
Jane.
and that's what's referred to in this
Jane.
opinion.
I understand you second the motion before we get discussion. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that was not a motion, that was a request.
Oh, request. Okay, I'm sorry. So it was
Just a request.
I apologize, Don. I thought it was a motion.
It was a request to put it on a future agenda. We can't discuss it today, it's not on the agenda.
Right.
What does that mean?
You would
So
be repeated.
there is before you a request to put it on a future agenda to reconsider the application and have the applicant come back and represent.
Correct.
Well, I don't feel that's a matter that's worthy. We heard everything we heard. This applicant went through it for 2 months. Don, you made a vote which you didn't like, and you want to change your vote. There's no material information relative to the application. And why should we cause the applicant to come back?
Because I wanted to have a revote, and that's a fair and honest request.
The chair does not agree, and will not put it on a future agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, but I really have a question for Dean. I'm seeing you in the corner of the screen. Yes?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning.
Hi, Sandy.
I guess my question is, am I correct that the boards in this town do not operate by Robert's Rules of Order?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I guess she's directed that to me. That is correct. We don't have any parliamentary
Thank you.
manual that applies to any of our boards, including the select board.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Interesting.
Thank you. Let's
So
move
we're
on.
operating under general legal principles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Frank, could I just make a comment on that last
sir.
issue? It seems to me that it would be appropriate if there were such rules of parliamentary procedure. I know there are, where I came from in Pennsylvania, there was actually a state statute on administrative proceedings. And leaving each entity in town up to whatever it feels like doing on process issues is not a good thing. And I think maybe even Mr. Nicastro would agree with me on that. So that's something for us to consider, and maybe ask the select board to consider to include that in what you were referring to there, the guidelines for boards and commissions.
Okay, that's something to do. Mr. DeCastro wants to take it forward to the select board, but that's where we are right now. Okay. Under old business, Michelle at the present time has had hasn't had time. We're moving on, please. No, I would not like to at this particular point. Thank you very much. Moving right along. You're out of order, sir. Thank you.
I don't believe
Mr. Chair, I'm moving forward. There's nothing to discuss at this particular point. Thank you.
I respectfully disagree.
I agree with your disagreement. Thank you. Review of which reminds me, the Zoning Board of Adjustment had a hearing on the subject, and the application was continued. And I was referred to in the meeting, so I have to look at the meeting and find out what's said or not said relative to the actions of the Historical Commission. So I'll take a look at that. Under old business, review of the current application and discussion of possible changes. As I said, Michelle has been in extensive dialogue with the Cape Cod Commission, specifically Sarah Korjeff, and I think at our meeting we had yesterday, we agreed it's complicated relative to the issue of percentage of demolition and how it's calculated. Am I saying that correct, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, something dawned all the years I've been here, that you can consider internal modifications as part of the,
Demolishing of any square footage of existing material.
inside, interior.
Inside.
Yeah, so we need to clarify that, because that's not how I have been interpreting it, or I think the commission has been interpreted in the past. So we're trying to just clarify that. Okay, so Michelle, sometime in September at the rate we're going?
I would agree.
Yeah, okay, great, excellent. Archaeological survey of the cemeteries, Form Es. Well, I think Mr. Burlingame and myself have actually knocked it down to the ground. Go ahead.
I'll speak to that, if I may. I'll speak to that if I may, due to my overall responsibility, perhaps, of this project and my correspondence and other communication with the proposed person who's going to do this work, Craig Chartier. He brought to our attention, and just his beginning of the project, that there were some Form Es on file with the Mass Historic Commission there were two of them, as a matter of fact, that had been produced a number of years ago. As we know, cemeteries are a dynamic operation. They change. They change their character. They certainly change the residents on a regular basis, or at least they add residents. And so even though these are on file, Frank and I have discussed it, and we think that it makes sense to go forward and have them updated because they are so old. It'll do some things other than just updating them in content, but the fact that they will now be computerized and available to easily update in the future, I think makes sense. It's a reasonably modest amount of money to make sure that these are done to today's standards, and that we have Form Es that we can easily get our hands on and act with accordingly. And since the Cemetery Association, the town manager's office, or a combination there too, I mean, the Cemetery Commission, is really focused on the care of the cemeteries recently, and I applaud them for the work that they have done, that this, in fact, will help that process and will show our support for what they're doing. And I urge us to move forward, notwithstanding the fact that some formies do in fact exist.
Well said. I think, one second, just a second. What I was just going to further comment with Steve's comment, the original ones were done in 1975.
That was the question.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 1975. It looks like somebody named Buckley was involved, but it's interesting. They were handwritten, and they're quite sketchy. And then in 1991, I'm looking at Don because he was here then. 91, Don. In 91, it was done. I think you were chair at the time. I forget who it is. It doesn't say who actually did them, but they did attempt but basically they took this information from 1975 and they typed it out. So and as Steve said, considering, the attention in the community for cemeteries, and I especially like the Form D for the Bethel Cemetery, being I just bought an $800 plot, so you can come visit me there. Anyway, yes, Don.
I believe Nancy Yaw was chair at that point.
Say again?
I believe Nancy Yaw was chair at that point.
At the time, yeah. So it was good. It works out. Thank you very much. No other further questions on that subject? And we're waiting for the administrative work to be done, because we don't issue contracts. That's done through the community development, and Ms. Donovan, in a meeting with her yesterday, is going to be moving forward on that with Craig Cartier, hopefully, who has done our archaeological surveys in the past. Relative to the townwide archaeological survey, the Form Ds, okay, which was previously done by PAL, again, in discussions with Ms. Donovan and Michelle yesterday, we're attempting to sharpen the pencil on that activity and find some way to proceed with that in the near future now that funding has been identified. And I think the key thing there is the fact that if we are able to do that and the proper forms are done, we then potentially have an opportunity to ask for eligibility of the Nickerson dig as a National Register site. By the way, just a quick aside on that, in conversations with Deborah Lawless for the public and the other members of the commission, apparently the Nickerson Family Association is proceeding on a major effort to update that area. I mean, if those of us who were there when they were digging, it was interesting. You had the pits and they were finding various artifacts. If you go there now, it's just a piece of grass. Okay, but so they're going to be actually putting a walkway through where there'll be signage that with QR codes where you could actually, hit the QR code and you'll see a video of what the archaeological dig is. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just for the members of the public, and it should be quite interesting, to highlight where, the particular the individual homestead of William and Ann Nickerson. So that's part of my reason for that. South Chatham Village National Register District. You do have in your packet, I did send you the letter which was from Mass Historic telling us that they voted and were getting ready to send it to, that the Mass Historic State Review Board voted and we're getting ready to actually send it to the National Park Service. That was on June 29th. Government moved slow. On July 13th, we just received another letter. Michelle, did everybody have this? Yes. Yeah, okay. And as you can see, they finished their review of the review, if you will, and now they have sent it to the National Park Service, the National Register of Historic Places, Joy Beasley, who's the keeper of the National Register of Historic Places in the Department of Interior, National Park Service, and basically indicating, here it is, please proceed. The process that I'm told, it's somewhat a formality at this point, and when it is actually listed on the National Register, it goes onto the Federal Register, which I guess is the official way the government accepts something. So hopefully by September, it'll officially be a second National Register district in the town of Chatham. Okay. The other thing, quickly, Monomoy Theater property, I had conversations with Mr. Greg Clark, who's the owner of the property, and he is proceeding and actually hired a local architect to do the detailed design of the theater and the Washington Taylor home. So that's proceeding. That whole discussion occurs within the HBDC. We have no input, other than the fact that Mr. Clark is still looking to gain national recognition as a national, that it's a significant National Register site, so he could potentially get his tax credit. So I'm staying close to that. Of course, the other element of that is the homes he's trying to build, and that's above my pay grades, okay? It's another board. The Coast Guard boathouse, the town is continuing to do its work, and so I don't know when that work will actually proceed, but the boathouse up in Quincy is all packed up, ready to go, and shipped back down again. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see that activity happen and receive that back in Stage Harbor. I've talked myself out. Oh, we have no changes, Michelle?
To the demolition delay statistics,
delay
there are no
status?
changes from the last meeting.
Okay, any other questions on that? We did have a administrative review, 46 Silverleaf. Who was that? Don and Bob, were you guys able to take care of that?
Yes.
And your motion would be what?
That it's eligible for administrative review.
Okay. A second, Don? Second, Bob?
I second that. I agree with Don's conclusion. It doesn't need to go to a hearing.
Yeah. Okay, I think most of the work was in the back of the house, and it was relatively minor.
No, it's on the,
front.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other one.
it was repair and replacement.
Yeah, repair and replacement of the front deck.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, we need to do a roll call on that. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Ben, are you with us? Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes,
Don?
Yes.
Benjamin? Is he still connected? I don't think so. He's not? No. All right. Sandy?
Yes.
Okay. And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. So, Michelle, you could provide the appropriate paperwork to move forward?
I will. Thank you.
That's it, unless somebody has something else they want to bring up?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Looking for a second?
second,
Thank you. All right, we need to take a roll call again, I'm sorry. Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben? Oh, Ben. Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
yes.
Don?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. I think we're off. Hey, guys, in the future...